What is good, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy King, guys. We're back again today, guys. We're about to check out another video, guys. This is alpha versus beta males. Let's jump right in, guys. Let's not waste any time. This is gonna be a crazy, crazy video. Let's just jump right in. Oh, this is gonna be wild.
Men should be the stable ones. Men don't need to be crying in front of women. And ideally, they're not splitting chores. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I think that if a woman cannot look up to you in some way, then she cannot respect you. And if she cannot respect you, she cannot love you.
I
Lord,
totally disagree. I totally agree.
Lord, beta.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. Men are designed to want to sleep with multiple women.
I will step forward. Yes, men are designed to sleep with multiple women. The majority of men, I wouldn't say all men, but obviously this is a generic statement to encompass the general thought. We understand that there is exceptions to the general statement, but generally, yes, men are designed to want to sleep with many women, with multiple women. That's why men get that desire. That's why men watch porn. That's why they consume it more than other men, because that desire is there. When porn was not available, they had brothels. Brothels were there to supplicate the same desire of men wanting to sleep with multiple women. Men had wives at home, yet they still went to the brothel and slept with, you know, the brothel ladies. You know what I mean? Like, it's even in Japan, the same thing still happens where they do have brothels and men are probably supplicating their desires to these brothels, especially the men sometimes who can't date. And there are obviously some men who are cutting off from society because they can't be bothered with all of it. And there are the incels who obviously want and have the desire to want to sleep with women or have a woman, but are not able to attain that. So yeah, I feel like men do design to want to sleep with multiple women, but whether they do that or not is up to the individual, and or if they are capable of doing it. Some men are not capable, hence they don't do it. And some men are capable, but they choose not to do it. What I suggest for men is to be the man who is capable but chooses not to do it, because again, they're focused on greater things than chasing tail. In your 20s, chase tail. If that's what you want to do to learn about women and how to be with women and engage in relationships, to understand them and to become better at being in relationships. And once you're in your 30s, yep, you can look to settle down because you have that experience. And yeah, you can now focus on one woman and focus your mind elsewhere on bigger things, providing for your family and building not even an empire, but building something worth leaving behind for your kids and your wife. And should she leave you or, do some madness and break up with you, at least you have that knowledge about dealing with women in order for yourself to get back out there. And yeah. Now let's see what these guys have to say. I've given my spiel. We're just gonna nod and agree with what they're saying as they
Yeah, I
go
would
through
say
it.
I definitely agree that men, want to sleep with multiple women. I think it's natural because one of the things is because we have so much sperm and that we produce so much sperm, and that makes us want to repopulate the earth basically. And so a lot of times what happens is I think that
1.8 million sperm
society
cells,
is telling
something
men
a
not to
day.
do that for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And some guys fall into that, but I definitely believe that men actually want to be with multiple women because it's just a natural thing in us. This is why you hear all the time, men always cheating and guys feel like they, trying to hide the cheating and everything like that. And if it was natural for them to just want to be with that one woman, then cheating wouldn't even be an issue. You know what I'm
That's
saying? So
true.
that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think for the way we were cultured, I agree with that. But also to just through human history, right? For survival, I mean, maybe this is old school thinking, but it's just like for survival, you need to have lots of kids.
That
So if
is true
someone's
too.
pregnant, how do you keep multiplying?
And especially in the fact that back in the day, wars were waged between men and men essentially, and the spoils of those wars were the women, because again, you can repopulate your nation, have more kids with the women of this other nation because of the men you lost in the battle. You know what I mean? Like, that's what people did. They had the main wife, and then they had, either slaves and or other women that they kept around, just to have sex with. It's sad, but that's the way it was back in the day, you know.
And you just more women, right?
It's
Not
madness.
saying it's right or
Madness.
wrong, but it's just kind of the way. I think women even cheat too. It's like 50-50.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, women are bridging the gap and cheating. I think they're a couple percentage points back from men. I think something like almost 25% of men in relationships cheat. And I think it's like 23% or 22% of women. So yeah, women are closing the gap right quick. And a lot of those, the gap is that small because a lot of the men can't actually enact on that desire to cheat. Hence, they supplicate that with porn and other means like OnlyFans or whatever, or even Instagram. Just looking at fit girls on Instagram and just choking the chicken.
women also
Choking the chicken.
want to do their thing, you know what I'm saying, in some situations, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's just men. I think it's a natural, like I feel like because that desire is there, it's a natural thing for, if we're talking specifically men, that desire to want to do it is natural in us. So then therefore you're going to want to do it. So I don't think it's a natural thing to just be with this one woman, but at the same time, when I'm with this one woman, I only want to stay with her. It's almost like I'm lying to myself if I just want to be with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. But the question is that
Big
the
chads.
end point? Is being with multiple women the end point? I'm of the firm belief that it is important to position yourself as a man to have the capacity to be with as many women as you possibly can, and position yourself in a way where you understand female nature and you maximize your potential as a man.
Yes.
And that's where I don't necessarily agree that just because there's a deeper desire to continue to do it means it's going to be the most optimal thing for you and your own ability to thrive at the highest level and connect with God here on earth.
I was taught not to be with multiple women, right? But it's like,
you have
especially,
that desire.
here's the thing, especially when you're in a relationship, right? It's like, it's better to grow.
I think that's the key. Left to their own devices, men would, seek out multiple relationships with multiple women, and possibly women would do the same thing without the societal judgment and whatnot. But I think again, it was more prevalent back in the past because people started to acquire stable wealth where they weren't moving as what do you call it, nomadic tribes. They weren't moving from place to place. They had to then secure they had the stable networks of wealth, and they had to secure that within the bloodline. So that's when men, I think, really started taking a care for women's, body counts and or sexuality, or whether they're virgin or not, because again, they don't want to pass on their wealth, their accumulated wealth, stuff they worked hard for, onto people that are not, within their family or their genetic makeup.
Together with somebody than multiple people, which I totally
I
agree.
think when you're nomadic, you're not really accumulating wealth. You're just finding food, you eat in the place, you move where the food is and you follow the food. But once people started agriculture and farming and whatnot, that's when you started to see that there started becoming a deviation between people men who had like multiple women and men who did not, because again, had resources.
But I think in the dating terms, it's like there's nothing wrong with being multiple women, because I think that's just dating. It's experimenting, it's finding other people. But are we naturally made to just always be with one person? It's like, if that were true, then these first thoughts of being with another woman, even though I'm in a committed relationship, would never occur. But it comes up once in a while. But it doesn't mean I'm acting upon it. So
And you might be being generous about saying once in a while. Probably goes up quite a bit.
it depends what kind of relationship you're in, I guess, or how good of a day it is, right? Like, but I would say for me, if it was totally natural.
What was that like men think about sex like 7 times per minute or something like that, some type of crazy number like that?
Even though I was nurtured into only being with one woman, that these thoughts wouldn't occur then.
Or was it like 7 times a day?
The thing with me, I'm
Someone let
not
me know in the
monogamous,
chat.
so I have a wife, I have a girlfriend, and I still, from time to time hook up with other girls. You know what I mean? And the thing is, it feels regular to me. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to do it or doing it because I'm forcing myself. It just feels just natural, like it's something I want to do. You know what I mean? And so to not do it feels unnatural. You might just want this one woman for a relationship. I can understand that. But sexually, though, I think it's all BS.
Yeah, I agree. I think a man can absolutely be head over heels in love with a woman and still sleep with other women and it not mean anything to him.
Right.
And I think all men have the proclivity to want to sleep with other women. Now, whether they're able to speak to that and actually act on that or not, or if they've been able to, like you said, like religiously find a way to work around it. And I think religion has been great for that, because if it weren't for religion, we probably would not have society. But I think what's most important to identify is that a man should create choice in his life. And if you have choice, you should be able to do as you wish, particularly like in your case, like in my case, if there's no deceit.
Exactly.
It's the lying. That, in my opinion, is actually the overall problem when guys, tend to go outside of a relationship. They lie to the woman.
Right.
That's the problem.
So when I was growing up, I was under the belief of just being with one woman, right? Like I was a virgin for a very long time. Then one girl broke my heart. So that caused like a lot of insecurity, resentment towards
rage.
The other side,
Savageness.
right? And then I just became like a man whore for a little bit.
The problem is you have guys who are monogamous, but they're monogamous because they're forced to be monogamous. In a way, meaning that they have no choice because they don't have the skill to attract multiple women.
And a lot of times they'll use that as virtue signaling. I would never do such a thing. Well, actually, bro, you can't.
All right. Can we
Exactly.
disagree a step
You don't have
forward?
the capabilities. You don't have the facilities, my guy.
I remember when I would like go on tour and things like that, my friends would always try to encourage me to like hook up with girls that were on to me. But I wasn't really like into it. And it made me feel like weird, like off, like there was something wrong with me. And now I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I'm only having sex with multiple women, so I'm not weird, so I'm
Bro, that shouldn't be what you're doing.
normal. I feel like even when I do have sex with these random women, it doesn't give me any gratification. And I know that comes with like random sex in the end, but I know in the back of my mind that like I just like simply don't enjoy this. Like I've been with multiple women and I've been with one woman, and being with one woman is just so peaceful. As far as like telling young men that they're born this way and that they should feel this way, it can really not do damage, but just sort of make you second guess things about yourself. Am I normal? Am I weird? Is there something off about me? Everyone else around me is saying that I have to feel this way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where peer pressure is a very real thing, and a lot of people do succumb to peer pressure. You have to be of a different ilk to not succumb to peer pressure. When I was in university, I made a conscious choice not to drink, so that I can be cognitive about the decisions I'm making, out in the night and also, in the day. So I understand exactly who I am as an individual, try to build that confidence naturally and not build it on the back of alcohol and use that as a crutch for me to move through the world. And a lot of people used to try and shame me into drinking and telling me, oh no, you come on, man, don't be lame, don't be this, don't be that, drink. I stand firm in my belief that no, I don't need to drink. The rate of return on this is not very high. But again, if you're not a problematic person like myself and you're able to drink to the level of being tipsy and you maintain that, that's a good point to get to. But a lot of people can't find that balance of knowing exactly how many drinks it takes them to get tipsy, to level off for like a couple hours and then maybe take another shot or something to just keep coasting. People don't think about things like that. Whereas me, myself, I do. So if you don't follow what people are doing, do what you think is best for you, because at the end of the day, you sleep better at night not following the crowd. I tell you this, sometimes if you follow the crowd, they might lead you off a steep fucking hill.
I have to do these things, but yet I don't feel the courage to do those things.
I would say that's not true, though. I don't think that we should promote men.
Should promote the
sleeping with
courage
multiple
for you
women.
to do those things.
I
bro.
think that we should promote choice and what feels right to you. So
And I think that's why he's a beta, because he fell into the prescriptions of how he should live his life according to what other people are saying. Like, if you, quote unquote, are an alpha, even though people don't like using that term, is you have the means and the capabilities to live the life on the terms you see fit.
in your particular case, I would never tell you to sleep with multiple women. I think you might be doing the right thing to do exactly what you're doing and not do it or stop doing it. It's not about pushing it on the young men, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of young men that have a demon inside and maybe are really upset and frustrated with themselves because they feel a certain way. And it's like, oh, I'm coming out the closet, I'm straight, or super straight or too straight or whatever it is. I think that it's really going to be about choice, man. So if me to you, I tell you, if that you don't feel good doing that, man, I wouldn't do it at all.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I agree. In your situation, what was happening, and this is what I think a lot of times what happens is you have guys who will have sex with multiple women because they're trying to fill a void. So it shouldn't be about filling a void. It should be about you actually desiring. So you don't desire to do it, so which is why you shouldn't do it. But there are guys who desire to do it, but then they're suppressing their desire, and then it's doing the same thing as you not wanting to do it. Like they feel weird about not doing it, but they want to. Whereas you felt weird doing it, but you didn't want to.
I think it's a society thing. Like what you just said, who's making them feel guilty about not doing it? Other men. The reason, I think women and men, the question was, do you feel that men are...
Yeah, that's like most people are sheep. That's why you want to be a leader. Most people try to hold other people in line so they don't feel less than. It even happens in relationships. If a man is working hard and being, like, especially because of the pressures of equality that have been put on relationships today, if a man is working hard, being himself to the fullest and trying to provide for his family, the woman might say, hey, slow down, because she feels like she's getting left behind. She feels like she's getting outdone, and she doesn't like that feeling of feeling like she's failing as an equal member of the relationship. So, people just do this to each other. Same with families, want to hold each other back. It's just human nature.
Sleep with multiple women, or they just
be the leader.
That's what they do, and I don't think that's true. I think it's a part of your character and who you are. I do believe that if you're going to be honest with your partner is into it. But do I believe that we are biologically meant, and it's in our head because we have to procreate and this and that? I don't believe that. I believe the reason we do it a lot is because it's looked upon as a great thing for men to have multiple women. Women are shamed for that. Shamed totally. I have one son and 2 daughters, and I know the difference of how I felt when they were 15 or in their 20s, now they were 15 versus him having multiple partners or my daughter.
So if I could struck a check for $1 million and never feel that feeling again, I absolutely would. I really, really would. It's something that I really hated myself for, and I felt very apart. I grew up in the South Louisiana. It was a Bible Belt. And I felt very distant from people around me because I had this urge in me and could not understand why I was so different. Like, the biggest self-hate I've ever felt in my life is over this particular subject. I thought I was broken.
And I understand you. And me, again, I'm going to come back with, just being around it. And me, I'm bisexual. I've always have been. But like you heard me say, I've been married to a woman for 30 years. And I've been committed for 30 years. It doesn't that I don't have that desire. It's my character to say, this is my person, and that's who I want to be with.
So that's you're making a character versus is the drive.
I was going to say...
Then that goes back to, are we just built that way? Because if we're just built that way as men, then there's multiple people that I'm going to want to sleep with.
But I think what I was under the impression with that question was, are we biologically DNA created for that?
Yeah, my man's lost.
Say,
I don't know.
Yes,
Guy with the
but
dreads is
I love, and I
You're
agree
lost.
with what we're saying here. It's like, but as men, right, in the culture and awareness and being a human being, having a consciousness, choice, language, we can choose not to. We can go against those desires or urges.
If you feel that desire and you're honest with your partner, I believe that is true. Do I believe that we are biologically meant to, we just biologically want to sleep with more people because we have a penis between our legs and not a vagina?
Same with women. They probably want to
Well,
sleep
let me
with
ask you this, though, because you said you're
not
bisexual.
the same level
so
because
that
of the
means you're
difference in
attracted to
testosterone.
men and women, right? So if you're with a woman, aren't you also attracted to men? So wouldn't you want a man and a woman?
No.
So you're just like, I just want one and that's
I made a commitment.
Yeah, I think he's not understanding the question and how these guys are answering it, which is they're answering it literally because men are designed to want to sleep with multiple women. Whether they do or not is a different story. And he's arguing they shouldn't. He's trying to argue that that feeling is not biological when it actually is, and the societal pressure is for us to be with one woman.
And it's not even like
but there's no
urge
to want.
There's always
more.
urge.
That's what that's what we're talking about.
But that doesn't mean that I'm biologically. I think men and women both have urges.
Where do you think the urge is coming from, though, if it's not biologically inside of you?
Exactly.
I think the urge comes from, I don't think it's a biological thing. I think
temptation, not urge.
But the urge creates...
Brother, the urge is there. The urge is there because it's natural. Same with taking a shit. You feel that rumble in your stomach. You feel that constipation. You want to push it out. That is an urge. Whether you do it or not is a conscious decision. But it's an urge. Same with hunger. Hunger is an urge. Whether you act on it or not is different. You might see food that tempts you in your hunger, which is not good for you. Whether you eat it or not is a choice. You might wait and hold off to find the more healthy, better options. But again, it's a choice.
It's temptation, no?
But is temptation bad? Like you say it in a way that's kind of like temptation.
No, I don't think temptation's bad.
Natural.
I don't think it's a thing of all. Then that goes back to all of us. Then all of us are meant to sleep with multiple people. So then that's just a whole different society thing. But it's not just. The question was, as men, are we? And I don't think so.
But regardless, I think it's important to understand. 'Cause I think we are, and if we can come to terms with that, we can begin to move past it. That's what we desire. But if we reject that idea that it's not natural, then we can't move past it if that's something that someone wants to do.
But do you agree it's just men? Do you agree with that statement that it's just
No, I think it's women too.
Okay. That's where I disagree.
Oh, no, because we just talking men.
Right.
But I agree that
But
it's
to a
men
lesser
and women.
degree.
What it
because of that
sounded
difference in the
like
hormones.
was, and correct me if I'm wrong, people started talking about like infidelity and, you know, telling the truth. And I think like the urges and things are okay until you act upon it. And that's when both adults just have to have a conversation about, you know, this isn't working out for me.
I think the majority, I think the system is very smart because they allowed men to enact on it in a different way. This is by way of porn and using things like corn and all this stuff, allowing men to use this as another method instead of actually going out there and sleeping with other women. So it's very, very smart. And again, we've also seen the rise of people with erectile dysfunction and all these stuff, these problems where they've watched too much porn and now they can't, get it up in actual sex. Like, it's messing the system up, bro. This shit is crazy. And now that Apple came up with the new goggles, bro, it's about to get even crazier. These men are not leaving the house, bro. It's about to be madness.
I still want to, sleep around or whatever you want to call it. It sounds like some people want to have their cake and eat it too, which I don't necessarily agree with. But I think just as long as all parties involved have an understanding of what they're getting into, I don't see the issue.
I mean, honestly, I don't think I could say it any better than he did. Which I feel like most of us or all of us kind of agree upon, that in the end, it is a choice that, like, if you want to be in a poly relationship, that's fine as long as everyone's in agreement. Obviously, don't be in a monogamous relationship and then like single-handedly choose to sleep with other women without telling your partner. Like, that's when like issues arise.
Hi, this is Ragini, the director of this episode.
Ragini!
You can now stream your favorite episodes of Middle Ground on Spotify whenever you like. Please like this video if you enjoy watching it and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's get back to the video. Submissive women are more attractive than dominating women.
Oh.
That is a subjective viewpoint. It's a subjective question, but I think the majority of men would lean towards a more submissive woman than a more dominant woman, because I don't think anyone wants to be arguing day in, day out with a partner, especially if you as a man lean on the dominant side. That's why you would see that most likely more of the alphas are going to go up front and sit down, because again, people generally want the opposite of what they are. If you're more docile and submissive, you're not really, contentious anyway, so you're not adverse to dating a more dominant woman. But whether that relationship lasts or not is highly unlikely, because again, if a woman is dominating you, then she feels like she's better than you. She feels like she's better than you. She does not respect you, and she does not respect you. That's just a matter of time until the relationship is over.
Hell yeah.
Justin came over with the speed of the gods.
My
bro.
shirt says submissive women are sexy. Okay, so
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. Look,
I like that
I
one.
think one of the most beautiful things about love is being able to fully take care of a woman in every way, whether that's emotionally, protecting, providing, everything about that. Like, every fairy tale that was ever written for all of time was about a man saving a woman from a castle and a dragon, right? Or some sort of scenario like that. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I have nothing against women being empowered, but I do feel like the happiest women in the world are the ones that look up to a man and that he can fight every day to love her and love his kids and his family and provide and be that source of something to actually look up to. Like, I believe a woman can admire a man and it's very, very, very healthy. Am I saying that somebody that doesn't do that is not a man? No, I would never. But ideally, the relationships that are going to work, the relationships in, let's say, the 30s, 40s, 50s, or whenever, we were having nuclear families stay together before we went off the gold standard and inflation pushed everybody to have two people have to have a job. Yeah, dude, I do. I think those relationships are much happier when the man can lead a house and be proud of going out and going to work every day and fighting for his family. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think what we have to do is we have to look at general female happiness.
I think this is a good. It makes a good point, because generally in the world currently, around the world, you probably have more of a dynamic where, especially since a lot of the world is in poverty, you have a dynamic where the man does go out to work and the woman stays and kind of takes care of the kids, and that is the general consensus around the world. That is the most optimal situation to raise a family when you are in times of need to be optimal. Whereas nowadays we don't need to be optimal, because we have like optimal living conditions. When you don't have optimal living conditions, you need optimal effectiveness in the way you conduct your relationships. But if you have optimal living conditions, like the way we do in the West, people then start to, remix things and do things the way they want to do them, and whatnot. Is it optimal? Who knows? But people are choosing to do things in a kind of dysfunctional way. And you can see that reflected in things like the divorce rates and things like, the rates of unhappiness in the West compared to other places in the world.
Happiness, because that's really what I'm into. Like, I don't really care what guys think or what girls think. I think I have a unique perspective in that I've worked with a lot of high-performing women that operate in this dominant role. And I work with them for the purpose of helping them be able to reintegrate with that more submissive, connected, intuitive part of themselves that really is connected to their bodies, that if they were connected to their bodies wouldn't be as dominant, at least in the presence of men. And with every woman that I've worked with, there is this deep, deep, deep desire, regardless of what she says externally, to submit to the leadership of a man that she knows can properly hold down the emotional space and really put her interest at the forefront.
Right, because soon as when a woman is dominant over that man.
This is the thing. We understand this, that women want to date across and or above, and men want to date across generally and or below, because we've seen that the divorce rates for men who date above their socioeconomic class are just dire. They are just devastating. The divorce rate increases up to upwards of 90%. That is ridiculous, especially because those women at those higher levels are more educated. They're more, they're obviously more opinionated. They're more dominant, because they obviously have to get to that or have those driving factors to get to that level of success. So yeah, man, we understand, we can see the science, we can see the evidence, yet people choose to ignore what is optimal, and they choose what they want to do. But again, is it working out in the West? Not so much, in my opinion. Looking at the data and the evidence, not so much.
She can't respect him. It's just impossible. It feels safe. Right, exactly. And the thing is with submission is like, if you even look at the word submission, sub, under, a mission. If I have a mission and this woman is under my mission, meaning I'm leading her, right? Then that is a actual good relationship.
And this is what I understand. This is why it's important for man and woman to find a partner who is aligned with the mission that they see, or the direction they see their lives going in. If you know the destination of the ship, you can get on and not feel like you have to be a passenger, like a backseat driver, or you can like a passenger who tries to tell the captain what to do. Like, you can be rest assured that ship is going to the destination, because you can trust that person is a good captain and or a good driver. So what I say is, pick people who are of like mind, who want to go to the same destination that you see your life panning out in. And especially for women, pick men who exemplify where you want to be in your life, and who are going in the direction where you want to go as a family, with your family. So you have to really prioritize picking those people who exemplify those things, and not just picking people for the short term, because again, that is just building up trauma if that person is wrong, and then you can then not be your optimal self for that person who does deserve the good treatment.
Ship that's going to flourish.
Truly, deep down, every woman would love nothing more than to be more feminine in a role in a family, and take on either that motherly role or that nurturing role, or the role that feels supportive to the overall man.
Most women would like to have the option to work or not. That's most women. There's a minority who do enjoy working and who do want to climb the corporate ladder and who are done with men in that sense until they've reached that level of success that they want to reach, and then they can look back and try and date a man. But the majority of women want to reserve the right not to work, and the man provide solely for the household.
Mission of a man. It's just got to be a man.
And if you can't provide that, I guarantee there's a lot of tension in the household because of that.
Getting behind, and weak men are the reason why this is a problem. Case in point, look at the workplace. You don't see women applying for jobs to be power line guys or hang steel at steel companies. They're not picketing outside of the United States Army being like, why won't you draft me? They don't want that smoke, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like and that's okay.
Right.
And I can't say enough. It's like, as a man, like, you get to take pride in taking care of a woman, protecting women. What about your daughters?
This
man,
guy,
protect
Jim Waller,
them,
man,
provide,
he
care
is
for them. That's
out
okay.
here, bro.
Let them be feminine. A strong man doesn't need you to be a man.
Out
He say,
here in
fine,
these streets.
you can be a woman. You're safe, sweetheart. You come with me.
Right.
That's
Come with me. You can come with me back to Louisiana, bruh.
There were just a few things that I disagree.
Oh, here we go.
I think that in
On
2023, especially,
I said in 2023. In 2023. As soon as someone starts with in 2023, you know it's about to get very woke.
I think women just want to be able to look to the side and see their partner as an equal.
This is very interesting. I think they want to see a partner. They want to see, again, they want to see themselves as part of this team. But any great team, any great company, in that team, there is a captain, there is a leader, there's the person who drives the group to get to the goal that they have agreed upon, to get to that ultimate goal. There is that person who always remotivates and brings people back to the bigger picture, because people do stray. And that's what you need. That's why you need a leader in the relationship. It could be a man, it could be a woman. Define that as you will in your own relationships. But that's why you need someone distinctive to be the head in the relationship. Because again, you need someone to take, again, the responsibility. Because in situations, you just understand naturally who does what and who does what. If you don't have that understanding, it's a whole lot of faff and a whole lot of unnecessary arguments. And this is why I commend relationships in countries that are not in the West, is people understand their roles intrinsically when they do get in that relationship. It's not a, what if or whatever. You understand what the person is bringing to that relationship. You understand what you have to provide to that relationship for that relationship to be successful. But over in the West, obviously, it's like a pick and mix. You pick and mix what you want to bring to the relationship, and you kind of have to talk it out. But most people, what they don't do is they don't talk it out, and they let those situations play out naturally. And that's why you see a lot of dysfunction, a lot of divorce rates here in the West, because people don't sit down and actually talk about the terms and conditions of the relationship and where they want to see that relationship go and how they want to see it be fulfilled. They don't talk about these things. They just kind of go with the flow. You kind of have to, especially in 2023, you have to be systematic in the West, if you're dating in the West, about how you approach a relationship and outline the roles and responsibilities you see the individuals in that relationship performing, so you understand your role. It's easier for people to perform when they understand what they're supposed to do. If you don't understand what you're really supposed to do, you kind of faff about a little bit. You faff about, and then it doesn't have the same oomph in that relationship. If you know you have to be the provider, you work 10 times harder because this is my role. This is what I have to do. You work 10 times harder. If you know you have to be the nurturer, the carer, if you know you are the one who has to wash the dishes, you keep an eye on it so it doesn't overwhelm you. Like, you have to understand your role in the relationship, regardless of who's at the leadership end, man or woman. Understand it. It will make your relationships much, much easier.
And I think a lot of women now I don't think they're trying to be men. I think what they're realizing is that the qualities that...
And you find this a lot with women the majority of women who go into male-dominated spaces, is they want to be treated differently than the way the men treat the other men, which is, again, is asinine. It's one of those things where you can't go into a space and ask for different treatment than the treatment that everybody gets. That eliminates the whole point of equality.
That they were looking for in men, they've always had it within themselves. If women are submissive...
But that's key. They've had it in themselves, but it's one of those things where they don't necessarily want to use it and or jump into their masculine. They don't want to have to jump into their masculine. It's like, again, that drive is necessary. It's there because, again, if the father does die, the mother has to step up. And that's the key. If the father does die, the mother has the capacity to step up and then, lead the household and take care of the kids and, do all the stuff that the man would have had to do and the stuff that she would have done. That's why that feeling or that drive is there. But do they want to be in the masculine? I don't think so, man. If you tell me that there's a ship going to this destination where I want to go, and then I have to try and fight and help the ship captain control the ship to try and get us there, whereas the other option would just have a competent ship captain who can get me there without me having to put any input in, and I can just enjoy the scenery. I would rather take that second option because it's just better. It's more fun.
It's mostly for, I want to say, like, the validation for the man. I think they know in the back of their heads, like, they know now that they can do things on their own. I don't think they necessarily need a man, but I think what they're looking for
especially
is
in the West,
intimacy
they
to
don't
have
need
a partner.
But they do need a man in the constraints of a relationship, because if you are looking to rear children, to raise the children without the man in the household, statistically is the biggest disadvantage you can have for that child.
But I don't think that they require one.
Oh, no, they do. Because, a lot of these girls, they usually go home and cry at night from being lonely, from not having a man. They have all these things, and then they're upset they don't have a man.
This is interesting because this speaks to the human condition. Like, you always think you don't want something when it's in abundance. When that thing becomes scarce, that's when you start to want it. When that commodity becomes scarce, that's why you see whenever the women, these same the boss babe ladies, the modern woman per se, whenever they get to the age where the options start to dwindle, that's when you see they start to maybe care about having a man, and they maybe look at that past and think, maybe I didn't do it right. It's because they realize that the options that are now available are not to the same standard or the same quality that they would have had if they had pursued them, earlier in time. So it's a tough situation to be in, where you have to reconcile what you want. But it could easily be done, where if you want to chase your career, you can find someone on your path in your career to settle down with. So whenever you are finished with your career goals, you can then, pursue the family while you have someone there. Like, it can easily be done, but people prioritize one over the other.
You know what I mean?
But you can't be the best. You can't be the best at both. You have to be the best at one, and or mediocre at both.
I mean, and I heard you say that, women want to be the man's equal, but you don't see, and maybe this could just be a societal thing, a societal pressure, but you don't see women doing things that could make them equal to the men. You don't see the women approaching the men. You don't see the women paying for the dates. You don't see the women being more assertive to the man. You see what I'm saying? So where's that at?
It's coming. That's the evidence is coming through. It's coming through.
They got so much more options than men.
I'll tell you what you do see. You see a high level of women on antidepressants more than ever, right? And I think that's a bunch of women trying to cope with trying to be like a man, when really, let me ask you a question. Are you more attracted to a woman that has a high-paying job or to a woman's beauty?
That doesn't matter to me.
It does matter. It does matter to me.
It doesn't matter to me. Pick one, bro. Pick one, bro. An ugly rich woman or a beautiful broke woman. What would you rather pick? I would pick the beautiful broke woman any day. Any day of the week.
But you could, but I would like to say a mother figure rather than a woman.
Absolutely not. But I would like to say that you're saying that women, have a higher, have antidepressants, but men, I'm a social worker, so men 1 out of 10 are more likely to experience depression, but more likely to go undiagnosed and not seek therapy or help. So I do think, and women also, you have to consider the fluctuation in hormones, pregnancy, because that can alter, their mental health.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a moot point, but I feel like, I'm not looking for a mother figure. I'm looking for an equal. So I feel like with,
But again, I think it's not a moot point because there's more pressures on women today than there were like 50, 60 years ago. Those pressures compound on them having the hormonal cycle to add to greater levels of depression, because now they have to go through what men go through and what women go through. Whereas in the past, they only had to go through what women go through and not subject themselves to the strenuous stresses of the workplace. So, bro, it's like a compounded stress, which is why those numbers kind of do make sense in terms of them consuming antidepressants at a larger rate.
Now, women, you know, they're like going home crying, looking for men. I think it's also that societal pressure that tells you at the same time you have to have multiple women. They're telling the women you have to have that one man.
You don't have to have. It's not a societal pressure, bro. What the? It's a societal pressure. You have to have multiple. It's not a societal what?
Husband by a certain age, have kids by a certain age. There's more pressure on them than there is men. And for, you know, lack of a better term, I think men have gotten off a lot easier because women have so much pressure and they get judged more harshly than men do for talking about back then when men used to go home, bring home the bacon or whatever. You know, the domestic violence rate was pretty high during that time. And I'll also say that for people of color, we never really had the luxury of working one job. So my parents, you know, their parents before them, everybody always had to work, men and women. So there was always that equal opportunity for them to be able to see that.
But even the people of color understood there was a hierarchy in the household. Most of them, the people of color, are Christian. Most of the people of color are Christian, so they understand the man is the leader of the household. Most black women today want a strong, capable, masculine man. It's just the facts. To sit here and try and ignore these things and say, oh no, it's the societal pressures. It's not the societal pressures. People want a competent person. Women want a competent man beside them, not an incompetent man they have to lead. They don't want that. They don't want that. Men are more likely to be able to stick with that because men are more likely to provide long term for their partner. Women are not providers of resources to men for long term. They're providers of resources for themselves and their children.
They could do it together as opposed to put that one pressure. And I also would like to ask, if you guys find submissive women more attractive than dominant women, is that because it makes you feel more validated as a man, or is there something there that you feel like feeds into your purpose as a man?
Yeah, well, it's a balance. If I'm a dominant person,
exactly, it's a balance.
If I meet a dominant woman, we're gonna butt heads.
What if that changes? Like, what if she grows? Because I would love.
What, bro? We're not here to try and negotiate all the time about some dumb shit, bro. What if that changes over time? But you have to go through wars to get to the point where you, bro. No. It's just long. It's long. No one wants to be fighting every day on some dumb shit because you just don't want to agree because you want to feel like you have the power or I have the power. There always needs to be someone who's more submissive and someone who's more dominant. That's how it works. To have two people in equal balance is very, very rare. And when that does happen, it's a beautiful thing. But that is not the majority of relationships. In the majority of relationships, there's someone who always is more dominant than the other person.
Love everybody to be able to grow throughout life. What if she starts becoming more dominant? Is that like a...
Are you saying if she starts becoming more dominant in
How does that happen, bro?
More dominant or equal to your dominant?
Oh yeah, she's gone.
She's gone, yeah.
See, that's my thing. Like, I got children. I don't need somebody else to take care of. And I love your thing about, you know, the Prince Charming and everything. But you know what I need? I need a badass woman who can match my badass energy. I work with my wife, and I'm gonna tell you, I take care of her, she takes care of me, and she's badass. And that's what I'm attracted to. I don't need a submissive that I have someone to take care of. And then it's fine. You know, if she goes through that, then I'll be there and I will take care of her. But I'm not looking for somebody, another child to take care of and have to dominate and tell, you go over there. This is where we're going to go to dinner. This is where we're going to do that. No, that's why what he was saying, I was going to bring that fact up too. A lot of men are depressed because they put it on this shield of I have to be the leader. I have to do this. And you know who goes to get help first? Women.
Okay, that totally makes sense. I think if we're talking about men not ever dealing with their emotions, it makes sense for this argument that you guys are talking about. But I'm a firm believer. I have gotten a lot of therapy in my life. I've done a lot of things for myself personally to resolve my own internal conflict. Okay, so it's a job of alpha men. The real integrated alpha man has the capacity to understand what he's feeling, why he's feeling the way that he is, articulate in a way that is productive to the dynamic.
Exactly.
So a real man is someone that understands himself deeper at an emotional level, has taken the time to do that so he can show up as a rock, not so he can show up more emotionally.
Problem is that if you're super emotional, we talk about the whole thing of being submissive or dominant, Your woman is going to dominate you because you're so emotional.
Emotionally unstable. Let's say that. Let's stop using emotion. Let's start using emotionally unstable.
Right. Since you're so emotionally unstable, she's going to dominate you, and then she's going to lose respect for you, and that's good.
Everybody is emotional. It just depends what emotions. You have to consciously choose to feel, not even feel emotion, to enact on the emotion. When you are unconsciously being reactive, that's a problem. When you choose to lean into the emotion you're feeling consciously, that's different. That's different. Two different things. Two different things. Two different things. But to a lot of people, they do seem similar. And a lot of people might use it as a cop-out to just say, I was just leaning into my emotion at that point because I wanted to. It was a choice. So, yeah, there is that. So, that's tough. But I say consciously understanding why you're doing something and then acting on it. If you do feel angry about something, consciously stay in that, hey, look, this can't run. There's no need for you to fly off the handle or anything, but at least, have that tone in your voice to say and to communicate that this is unacceptable. If you're communicating it with a happy-go-lucky tone, that message is not going to be received as if you're communicating with the tone of this is unacceptable. I do not tolerate X. Unacceptable. As we all know, 90+% of communication is nonverbal, so
Gonna teeter the waters of the relationship.
So, you guys know dominatrix exists for a reason. And by the way, I used to personal train at dominatrix. You guys are their clients.
Not me, cowboy.
I'm being serious. Like, it's a very hidden thing.
No, it's a very hidden thing. There are men who do have the power, like the ultimate power, and sometimes they want to relinquish that power to someone else in a fetishized way. But that is only the constraints of a relationship. In that sexual relationship, you don't actually see them relinquishing that power day to day.
I used to date them.
But he's right.
High positions of power, very alpha. But like, here's the thing. I think you guys put a little bit too much pressure on yourselves. It might be a societal thing. I've dated submissive women before. I find them highly annoying. Sometimes I just want somebody to pick a choice. I like her places. She's got better taste than I do when it comes to that kind of stuff. So please go ahead. We do butt heads once in a while because she is dominant. But does that mean she lost respect or attraction for me? No, not at all. And trust me on that one. So I think it does depend on your energy. You have a very...
It depends what you want as well. Like, if you're a man on a mission trying to accomplish your mission, having the person who's trying to be dominant and trying to always insert themselves and you have to argue with them and always check certain stuff is annoying to that individual. Whereas someone who's more submissive, it's kind of like they're just willing to follow you on the journey, which is you would find more attractive. So it just depends on the individual and what they are seeking.
High one, right? Maybe it doesn't mix well with
there are
somebody who
benefits
also has a really...
Again, as you said, there are essentially benefits and limitations to each. As you said, the benefits to a more dominant woman is she knows what she wants. So whenever a question is posed to her, she's able to answer and say, hey, I want to go here. I want to do this. I want to do that. But equally, if you are the dominant one in the relationship and you say, I want to do this, I want to do that, or she relinquishes that power to you, just pick some shit. It's cool.
High dominant energy. I'm not saying that's wrong because they exist for a reason, submissive people, right? But I just think, for me, when it's very submissive, I don't find that as sexy. I find that annoying.
But see, and that makes sense. And the reason why, what happens is the more masculine you are, the more you want the woman to be submissive. The more dominant she is, then the more...
I don't know. I think I'm pretty fucking masculine, dude. And I don't want somebody that.
I'm saying that in that moment you're in your feminine, but go ahead.
If you and your wife have like a conversation about a disagreement, and then you guys like a healthy conversation, and then she ends up being right in the situation, would you consider her dominating me?
No, I consider her right.
So what's your definition of like dominant? Like you always have to be right?
No, it's not about right and wrong. It's about who's running the show.
So by her being right, is that not her running?
No, that's just her being right in that conversation.
Yeah, a good leader would allow someone else to be right. A good leader doesn't have to be right. He wants the team to win.
Exactly. That's the key. Just because you're the leader does not mean you have to dismiss the other person's opinion as valid. No, a good leader sees opinions, they hear people out, and then they correlate the data together and make the best possible plan, including what they've heard from other people, to try and make sure that the team moves forward as happy as
In
possible.
fact, I'd call a man insecure if he wouldn't allow a woman to be right on the subject she was clearly.
I like that.
I do like that. And, it goes back to the question of, like, what do you find more attractive? Because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a preference.
What's the preference? It's a preference. One of the things you said is, like, when you and your partner or girlfriend get into something and it's, like, a little heated, like, I get off on that.
Me, I totally don't get off on that. Like,
Yep.
I don't need
So,
any
yeah.
back talk. I don't
Yep.
need any lip. I don't need
I don't
any
get off on it.
attitude.
Nope.
It's my way or the highway. Like, I don't want none of
I
it.
didn't even have a conversation in the first place about the disagreement.
You're not having that conversation.
No.
So you just want to be challenged. You want to be challenged. That's okay. Like, no back talk. I'm right.
That's a different thing. If we're talking about a topic and
See, this is the thing. Like, I'll put it this way, yeah. If someone has valid questions to ask, fair enough. But then when they start taking things to the extreme and start putting in like little extra shit that is unnecessary and does not add any value to the conversation, that's when you know someone wants to argue just to argue or to be right just to be right. That's what we don't like. Or that's what personally I don't like, is when someone just wants to be right for the sake of being right and not for the sake of actually understanding the position of the other individual.
she's right about the topic. That's just how I was talking about the
Like an
topic.
opinion of yours or things that you want
No, I'm
to do
talking
that she
about-
disagrees with.
If you're making an opinion, you're saying you want no back.
No. I'm not talking about opinions. I'm talking about decisions. So we can have a
There we
conversation
go.
about a topic, but when it comes to a decision, the final decision is mine.
Let me change my word. If we're to have a healthy discussion about a decision which she
She
disagrees.
says, I disagree.
Right? She said, so if we say, hey, she wants to do A, B, and C, and I say, no, I want to do D, E, and F, right?
Doing that.
We're doing D, E, and F at the end of the day. Now, I will listen to what she says, and if I think A, B, and C sounds better, then I say, okay, yeah, let's do A, B, and C, because
But you
that
don't
sounds
want back
better.
talk in the first place.
No,
Would
that's
you even
no.
entertain the
No. I think they don't understand what backtalk means. Backtalk does not mean actually talking back. It means the attitude in which someone displays when they're talking back at you. It's like someone's talking in a position of authority to you. They're not saying in like a oh hey babe, I understand you want to do this, but can you take a minute to consider that maybe we should do this and this, instead of someone coming up to you and saying, no, we're not doing that. This is what we're gonna do, okay? This is what we're gonna do. There's a difference. So if she comes to you, speaks to you in a respectful manner, you extend that respect. But if she comes to like almost emasculate you in the way she's talking to you, then he doesn't want that back talk that is degrading and demeaning to him.
No, that's what I'm saying. If we're having a conversation, that's cool. I'm saying the final decision though is mine. So you can speak your mind, but at the end of the day, I'm making the final
So
decision.
it's like, I'm gonna let you talk.
Yeah,
but,
let you
like,
talk. Yes.
In the end, I don't really care.
No, I said I care.
No, you listen to what they're saying and you're trying to incorporate what they. I think this is just. It's just a refusal to understand the premise off rip. Like they cognitively just can't accept what he's saying. They can't look at the nuance of what he's saying, because for some reason I understand it and I understand exactly why they're thinking the way they're thinking, but what he's saying is clear as day to me anyway. It might not be clear as day to anyone else, but it's just the disrespect or the tone of voice that is used whenever someone's speaking to you.
I do want to touch upon the.
One more thing with like let's clarify submissive. Let's not get that mistaken between incompetent. Like submissive does not mean incompetent, and I think you might have been talking about women that could be incompetent, where they don't have the capacity to take care of themselves at all or make any type of decision. So I think there's definitely a difference in how she shows up in the relationship compared to being able to make decisions in her everyday life.
Sure, but he doesn't want them to make decisions.
No, I didn't say I didn't want them to make decisions.
I'll say this.
No, your decision's the final, no matter what.
Some of the strongest women in the world right now are sitting in submissive roles because they're strong enough to think for themselves and do what they feel good in their heart. Because there are women that do want to be submissive naturally. And some of those women are the strongest women in the world right now, especially when the world's telling them to go be something that they don't want to be.
I do agree that honestly it is a choice, it's a preference. You know, we shouldn't speak upon like everybody. Obviously, like it's always a gray area. It's a range. It's not one side or the other. And if you guys want to be in a relationship where the woman is submissive and the woman also wants to be in a relationship where the male is dominant, that's completely fine. But the thing I want to talk about more is the fact that like you guys keep saying that like this is what women want, or that like all women
Generally
want
speaking.
this. Who are we to decide what women want?
Not all women, generally, bro. I think this is the low IQ shit that people be doing, man. It's like when you say women, you're not talking about all women. People should understand intrinsically you're talking about generally women. If you say humans have 2 hands and they have 2 arms and 2 legs, That's generally speaking. Not all people have this. Some people are born with one leg or one arm, or some people are born with no legs and no arms. Some people are born with 3 legs and 3 arms. But generally speaking, we understand what is meant. So for you to sit there and say, oh, what are we to tell? We understand, bro. We understand. We understand. It's like saying people from Africa are black. Not all people from Africa are black, but generally speaking, the majority of people in Africa are black.
Because first of all, we're not women, and
Oh,
second,
Lord.
just
This
because of our personal experiences in our lifetime
Lord.
about the people we've interacted with, I feel like that's something we need to take a step back from and clarify that, like, no, this is just my personal opinion. In the end, we
Lord.
don't know what women want. Woman knows what they want, not men.
I have yet to see a relationship because I would say a relationship dynamic that is optimal has deep connection where you could say there's a deep friendship there, but also there's sexual polarity. And I've seen dynamics where there is a great friendship there and there is connection and they do live very cohesively. But when the woman is more dominant, the majority of the time, I've yet to see a dynamic where consistently over time, there is strong sexual polarity on her end in a dynamic.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Like if that's what you've seen in your lifetime, that's completely fine. Like
No, that's what the data shows, man. It does not make the majority of the time, it does not make the woman wet to be dominating her man. The majority of the time. Okay, there's small instances where it might, but more often than not, we understand that it does not.
Biology says that. I don't think it's just my personal opinion.
Exactly.
Probably you just surround yourself with.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like just because you've grown up in a certain area where
Brother,
like people are
this
like
guy,
that,
bro.
because like I could say the same thing, but on the other side, where I've
you
seen
can't.
plenty of people and plenty of relationships where like that wasn't the case, but then they're like sexually fine, you know,
But
like,
the
they're perfectly
data
fine,
doesn't
their polarity is
support that,
completely
bro.
fine, and they're happy. And I could say the same thing. I could keep going at you saying that, like, oh,
The data
because of
doesn't
what
support
I've
that,
seen
though.
or what I've
The
I've
data doesn't
experienced,
support that though, bro.
dominant men, it won't work. But then that's dumb because there are cases where dominant men do work, but there's also cases where it doesn't.
No, it's all
When they're happy, they're
correct.
probably not going out saying, "I'm so happy, I'm dominant, and I'm a woman." They're not going around saying that. You know, they're just happy. They stick to themselves most of the time when they're that happy.
All right.
Oh Lord.
I am great at
They lost me on that, bro. They lost me on that whole shit, bro. What the f? That was like the dumbest ending point I heard, bro. We all intrinsically understand that women would generally prefer the man to be more dominant than they are. Like what? To sit here and debate these topics like this is just asinine. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, but in general, like fuck me, bro. What the fuck?
sex.
What the fuck? What the actual fuck?
Come on, man.
I mean, I have a lot to learn.
Bro, you're sticking a thing in the thing. Like and you just the motion of the ocean, and you listen to what the other person wants and you do. What more do you need to do, bro?
Disgusting.
Like why are you sitting back, bro?
Prove it.
right now.
Bro, this was a chance to redeem yourself.
No, I know, but it's just.
All right.
Actually, I'm gonna go back.
What?
With my
Anyway.
partner, my wife, I'm able to not only connect physically, but also emotionally. You know, and then I think that's the biggest trick I've learned. Not trick, but the thing I've learned about my years of being with my partner. You have to sort of like, you know, keep the spice going.
I would say, you know, I think the fact that we have a woman who keeps coming back or who keeps wanting it, I think that, you know, that's a sign that she thinks you're great at sex. You know what I mean? Because she actively wants to keep it going and keep it going in that direction. I will say though, I'm better at sex with women I care about. You know, so I think, and me being a player and a guy who goes out and talks to a lot of different women, you know, if with my girlfriend or like my wife or whatever like that, sex would be great. With the other girls, it can still be good, but I know that I don't really put in that much effort
You're just
because
trying to
it's
bust a
almost
nut.
like I'm masturbating with someone.
And eventually, you know, you know your partner's like comfortability, what they like, what they don't like, and things, and that's how you make
That's
sex a
true.
lot better instead of like sleeping with.
1,000%. Plus, you love them.
Right.
Like, so you knew if you were gonna die today and you could have sex with one person before you die, it would be that person. Like, no matter what. Like, you could have every supermodel, every movie star, everything. Like, fuck all that. Like, I want that person.
Focus so much on like what they like as well, you know, like you're kind of there to like pleasure them you know, because you care about them so much.
Right.
Which is why like you would hyperfixate on like what do they like, what they don't like.
I'm playing.
You can easily like adjust yourself and put in effort for that person.
And
My mind
like,
is-
for instance,
is
it's so true
killing
that you
me.
said that because my wife and I, we have this thing we call the love menu. Okay, why did we invent the love menu? We invented the love menu because we have 3 children, and they're only 2 years apart. They're in the mid-20s now, but think about it: 2, 4, 6 at home, and I'm working, and she's doing her thing. So we found that in our young relationship, sometimes the other person might be tired and like but that's hurt feelings. That makes you kind of do this type of thing. So what we did is we come up with a love menu of like, here's the appetizers. I might not be ready for the full course tonight, but here's your appetizer because I know you like this, or here is your dessert, or here's your main course meal. And we broke it into those things. So when we do come to each other and we need that connection, it's not just like, I'm tired, I don't feel like it. It's kind of like, well, what's going to happen? We have a full course meal tonight, or we're just going to have some appetizers. And that's kept it spicy for us. And also, like what you say, making sure we're pleasuring each other. It's not just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, I need to get my rocks off. But like, how are you feeling about that? And how are you feeling about that? Because when you're in a long-term committed relationship, you have to do that or
It dies.
Right. And I love that. I love that you talk about the amount of intention that you live
Thank you. You're finally speaking some sense,
with
bro.
in regard to
Appreciate
making
that.
sure that you're always evolving with it, always making sure that
Nice.
it's spicy. You just care. I think if you have a genuine care for the other person that you're involved with, then maybe you're not great right then and there, but it will eventually develop into being something that way. So I love that care that you demonstrate with that.
I'm interested in what you had to say. You've been very quiet on this one. You've been usually like...
All he said was,
Jay
"With the
Waller.
receipts," you know, he knows it.
And look, and that's a very important thing, right? Is so I think that as a man, I don't hate to say, that you should come in confidently. And I do find by and largely, it's kind of like you could have the alpha beta argument. I do that thinking coming in kind of in a dominant way. There's a reason 50 Shades of Grey is so popular. There's a reason it's the most read book of all time. There's a reason there's detail in it. And I think you can say so much to a woman in sex without saying a word. You know what I'm saying? It's about how you touch her, how you have your hands on her, the way you take over her in that way. And that's okay. Just knowing and seeing that expression and seeing things that happen and as a result of that is enough for me to know where I stand on the subject.
The only thing I disagree with you about is I agree with that energy, that take control energy. And I think one woman does love that. But sometimes my wife likes to take control, and I love it.
Well, get up there, girl. Get up there, girl, and do what you got to do.
I put my hands behind my head too. Yeah, cowboy.
Hey,
Yeah.
I love this. This is the one.
By
This
and
is the one.
largely.
Yeah.
We're like,
Yes,
hey.
and then when she wants to, but even when you're on bottom, man, you still doing work, bro. It's all about dancing, bro.
I don't want to get naked, but I have sex tattooed on my chest. Can I?
Bro, it wouldn't take much.
It's right here on my rib.
Okay. All right. And it's like an old one too. Not even like a.
I think the biggest thing I've ever heard from my sexual partners is like, wow, you really caught me off guard. And I think that's like a big part of it.
So is this like an argument with myself?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
That's why you're terrible at sex.
You missed it. He stripped.
No, I did see that. I saw it. I disagreed because I just feel like it's such a typical conversation and belief that every guy believes are great at sex. And to be real, when I talk to my girlfriends, none of them have good sex with guys unless it's, like you guys said, your partner. Then you can get better at it, right? And you know what they like. So that's what I mean. Like, I think I'm great with my girlfriend, but if I was to generate and say, like, I'm great at sex, I'd be like, no, I didn't, almost every girl I slept with before probably never even got off, really. But to say, like, I'm great at sex, I can bring a dildo in, it's just like, I mean, I'm nothing against that. Like,
Why are you looking at Jay Waller? I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, whoa. What are you talking about? Man, you're looking the wrong way.
No, I'm just saying.
You should be looking at the bisexual need.
But you still look at him. You look like the type. No, I'm kidding. I didn't get that. But it's like, I just feel like, there's a lot for me to learn even now with my partner. And I just, like, to say I'm great, I don't say that to myself because I think that blocks me from something that I might not be good at, actually.
No, I agree. I completely agree with the aspect that, like, honestly, there's always room for growth. Like, going around thinking that you're like the best is like is not something that I agree with, but more so that, like, especially with someone that, like a partner, like that you actually want to give the effort into, you learn, like it doesn't always have to go like perfect the first time, you pick up things, like everyone's different, man and woman. So like honestly, like it's.
But that's what when I think when that question says I'm great at sex, like that to me tells me you could line up 10 girls and 9 out of 10 you would know exactly what to do.
Sometimes it's just like a confidence thing. Like I am confident that I can achieve good sex.
Exactly, right. Cause that's what I'm saying. Because the thing is, I look at it like, because you're saying, well, being the best, you know, you can't really say being the best, but I disagree. I look at it as I am the best, but I'm choosing to be great with this person. And so what I'm saying is I can be really great with this one other girl, but I choose not to. And I do that purposely. And the reason why I do it purposely is because, like I was saying earlier when we were talking about friends with girls and all that other stuff, is that women have to earn good dick. That's how I look at it. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm with a woman where I just met you at the bar and we're just hooking up, I'll give you some, like I should say women should earn great, but I'll give her some good, but it ain't gonna be great because you haven't earned it. You're not my girl. You haven't done anything.
You're not gonna go the extra mile for her.
Right? Exactly. I'm not gonna go the extra mile for a new girl.
I agree with the.
I just gonna lay the foundation.
I agree with the mentality, but then not the stage of it.
Right, I'm just not gonna do all that for a new girl. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
What I'm saying
most people don't gonna do
is that the greatness comes from within you to know that you can, but you have to make the decision to do that. And I think most guys, if they care about a woman, they'll do that because that woman, in some form or fashion, has earned that type of energy from him. And that's how I look at it.
It's like, I completely agree, but I just want to change the word earn to something else.
Gosh.
Something similar, but that means a little different. Because, like, you don't want to give as much effort to, like,
says
people
different
that
words.
you don't really,
Gives off.
you see, like, long-term with.
We
But
understand
then, like,
what he means.
Obviously, if it's, like, a partner or someone that you can see a future with, you know that you can keep, improving. You can be, like, the best, for that person.
Who thinks that great sex is more mental or more physical? Which one would you raise your hand?
Mental.
Which one? Say
Okay.
one of them.
Who thinks that great sex is more mental?
I mean, it's more mental.
Okay.
It's more mental.
Okay. Who thinks great sex is more physical?
The reason why I sat down and then I
mental.
stepped back is because stepping down, sitting down, it was just kind of like that societal pressure of, we all agree like men have to be really great at sex. And I had to check myself out of my ego and take a step back because it can't be 9 out of 10. It has to be 10 out of 10. I know I've had, one night stands and I can't account for every single partner that I've had if they had a great experience or not. I could just be honest with myself and say I did my best, but for whoever is going to be my partner next, you have to have that, like that sense of like open-mindedness in a way, because what they might think they want from you to make you great, you might not agree with even trying. I get what you're saying about women having to earn great, but I feel like at the same time,
Why is it so funny coming out of your mouth?
I feel like I told you I'm a comedian. I feel like at the same time, women's needs are a lot different than men's in bed. So what might be, easy for you, like a quick 1-2, they're expecting, maybe more foreplay or more physical intimacy or, and
mental
with the whole
stimulation.
like BDSM with like 50 Shades of Grey, I think that appeal to like a certain subset of women and their fantasies, but I don't think that accounts for all women.
I think it's a great fantasy, but I think if you put most women, like, really say, do you want that? They'd be like, I want that.
Nah, they really want it.
Women should not be in position of power.
Ooh, is Jay Weller gonna step forward? Lucario's the misogynist.
Just like his hat says.
The misogyny.
I think a woman can be in a position of power only by herself, but not in relation to being in a relationship with a man. Because when she's in a relationship with a man, the man has to be the leader. The man has to be the one that's guiding the situation, directing the situation. If it's in any other situation by herself with work, with her friends or whatever, she can do whatever she wants to do.
Ooh.
Game over. Your game is over.
I first want to ask, because there was a lot of like has to, have tos, but like not really a reason behind it. Like, can I ask, like, what's your reason behind like why a man has to be in power? Why can't a woman be in power?
Power is such a weird word. I would say more like the leadership role. And the thing is that a man has to lead a woman. He has to guide a woman, because what happens is that when it's the opposite, when a woman is leading that man, she usually loses respect for him. When
That's
she's
true.
in a relationship with a man who is, under her, who's submissive to her in a lot of different situations, then she starts to lose respect for him because she's looking for a man to lead and guide her. If you notice, they have sex with the bad boys, but then the nice guys get tossed to the side. You see, why is that? You see what I mean?
Well, if you look at them psychologically, they have past trauma
Past
and issues
traumas.
probably. But like,
Yo, even the nice, like even the people who are raised healthily, the girls who are raised healthily sometimes have these proclivities. It's not just the past traumas, bruh. It's not the past traumas, man. It is exciting. It's refreshing. Someone who doesn't care. Someone who's wild, who gets your heart racing. Women are emotional beings, so someone who can really get them to feel the range of emotions, that's someone they enjoy being around, whether they're feeling like really, really happy, or they're feeling like slightly sad, or they're feeling, all the in between. Like that emotional roller coaster is something that, they enjoy, and bad boys provide that. Whereas the most complaints you hear from like the nice guys is they're boring, because guess what? It is stable. There's no fluctuations in emotions from them. They're pretty much the same way. Hey, how's your week, honey? It was good. Cool. Yeah, my day was good too. That's the end of that conversation. Like, there's nothing stimulating about that. So yeah.
look, there's women for you, right? I mean, like, you're on a different scale. What I would say, some women want a guy like you because they don't want to do anything, right? They don't want to take that position. I'm around a lot of women who don't want that. They're in positions of power, not just in work, career, at home. I know a lot of them. I do business. I find women much more pleasant to do business with. But when you're talking about maybe being at home, I don't know. It's just like, I think when you get into your part, your end of the pond, it can get a little bit mucky. You know what I mean? And I don't really subscribe to that as well.
I heard you say you were from New York. I lived in Manhattan for 30 years as a fashion designer in the heart of Manhattan. She was working as a fashion editor. I held it down with the 3 kids. I was the one bringing the money home. I was the one doing that.
You're feminine.
After my son, my youngest, went back to school, she went back to work. I always wanted to have my own collection. She was like, you should do that now. So guess what? She had the job. She paid the bills while I was building my company.
That's good teamwork, man. That's good
so
teamwork.
I could be strong in our relationship and be a man in our relationship, but I also got to know what it means to have a partner next to me, and not someone that I have to lead.
Beautiful shit.
Well, I think it's really, really important to specify what leading means. Right. And so right now we're talking about, you talked about, okay, we do the chores. Sometimes she pays more, sometimes I pay more. I think it's looking at a really superficial level. I think what you look at in a relationship, when you look at leadership and the one that is following per se, is who's the one holding down the emotional space? Like, who has the capacity to show up as the rock the majority of the time in a dynamic? And if that is the woman, I believe, for the most part, the polarity gets thrown off and there will be a deficiency in the sexual attraction that she'll have for you. If you are
100%.
more excessively emotional and unstable than your wife, I do believe that's going to lead to issues in the relationship.
100%. And the data supports that.
Emotional waves crash into. Like, straight up. So women are always going to be more emotional than men. Men should be the stable ones. Men don't need to be crying in front of women. And ideally, they're not splitting chores. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I think that if a woman cannot look up to you in some way, then she cannot respect you. And if she cannot respect you, she cannot love you.
I totally disagree.
Yeah.
Totally disagree.
Yeah. And the only reason I didn't come sit down is because I have some really, really good women in leadership roles in my businesses, and they are absolute leaders. Now they might lead under me, but I think they stand alone as leaders, and I respect them enough that I would never come sit down over that particular statement because it's too vague. But in the relationship, yes, sir, I do agree that a man should be the leader. He should be the breadwinner, and he should be the one solving all the problems out in the world and emotionally at home.
I'm glad again that you two say for work it's fine, but when it comes to our relationship, I got to be the one to wear the pants, and okay, let's not say pants. We'll use the person's words. I got to be the mountain that her emotions crash into.
Yeah, emotional.
I tell you guys, we can be very emotional too, and I know there's a lot of guys in my 55 years that are way emotional than some of these women out here now. They're taking
true.
So I think that's
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But
they are, but they've noticed.
and I don't think.
yeah, I think it's not about what they are, it's what they should be to have the most optimal levels of success in said relationship. That's why Giga Chad over here was talking about how if you don't have that polarity where the man is more stable than the woman, you tend to feel like those relationships don't last as long because, again, the woman feels like she's not in a secure position with this man, and this man is potentially not a suitable candidate to almost bear children with, because, again, he's not even holding it down when we're together. How am I supposed to hold it down with him when shit really goes south, bro?
Like, it hurts a relationship. And if you notice, isn't it weird that nowadays they're talking about all these single, sexless men and all these guys having issues? Why do you think that is?
They're becoming more emotional than ever.
Exactly.
I think no.
Exactly.
They're putting up with less bullcrap.
Exactly.
No, they're not putting up.
I am not a sexless single guy.
No, I'm not saying you.
No, I'm just saying this. But
No one said you were.
What the hell?
my girlfriend
My guy's what, bro? He's taking shit personally. He's taking all this stuff personally. What is going
is
on?
an emotional rock for me.
That's what I mean.
I'm sorry, but I gotta strongly disagree with everything you say. I'm also a breadwinner right now. It wasn't always like that though. She's going through a time and she wants to actually do something for herself, and I totally support that. But when it comes to an emotional, whatever you just said, that analogy, look, I mean, I think that's the problem also with a lot of toxicity that goes
It's
on,
not
because
toxicity,
some
bro.
men,
What?
a lot of men have emotions. You
Yes,
don't
they
know how to
do.
express it, and then it turns into this.
Yes, you should have. This is the problem. People are not getting the healthy ways to express your emotions, whether it's to your family members, your brethren, like whether it's, to express your emotions through physical activity, boxing, express your emotions through the gym, like productive ways to express your emotions. People are not giving people these outlets, so they bottle it up and then explode, bro. There are healthy ways to release those emotions that are not you crying to your woman and potentially losing that relationship because she feels like you're unstable and you're not able to be secure enough to be the rock that she might need you to be in dangerous times. Like, bro, what the
Opposite
fuck is this guy talking
toxicity.
about, bro?
How do I know this? I used to be one of them.
Me too.
Like,
What
it
the
feels like a
hell?
lot of these like rich millionaires are the ones that like have huge high divorce rates and things of that sort.
No, they
And I
don't.
think it's because they're just genuine.
No, millionaires don't have huge high divorce rates. That is the fallacy, bro. The data shows that the more income that there is in the household, the lower likelihood there is of divorce, bro. What the hell?
Really unhappy. Like,
What
is your woman with
backwardsness
you for
is
your
this, bro?
security, or do
No,
they actually
bro.
like you as a person?
No, cap.
And we're starting to see that, like, yeah, women want me at first, but I don't think it ends well, because after a while, like, they want you for your security. They don't want you for who you.
Newsflash, all women want security. That's why the majority of relationships end because of financial issues and or irreconcilable differences. Like, you need the security. To have a relationship without security is bullshit, bro. No one's gonna just love you for you. That is wishful thinking at the very most.
You are as a person and things of that sort. And that's why we see these millionaires and all these like really alpha males getting high divorce rates, because
It's not high divorce
I think
rates,
at
bro.
first it
That's
starts
so
off with
wild.
like security.
Money doesn't make you alpha.
Yeah, I think so.
No, not at all, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm about to say you educate me. That's why I came here.
A man can just be friends with an attractive woman.
Can?
Cat.
No technicalities, bro.
So I think it's all about, again, as we've been saying,
With an attractive woman, they can be friends, obviously because of the choice they make not to pursue that relationship, but do they want to be friends? In the back of the mind, they obviously think of that woman sexually. Facts. They obviously think of that woman sexually, but obviously they don't act on it, so they can be friends. But do they really want to be friends? Yes, it's fun to hang out with attractive women. But yeah, they probably want to smash two on the side.
saying before, it's all about choices.
Yeah.
I think if you find a woman
Yeah.
attractive, it depends on, are you gonna choose to pursue her or not?
Yeah.
But for some of us, like if we're speaking from personal experience, I've met many attractive women, and that's not the only thing that I'm looking for. It's also about personality. So she can be a 10, but if it's like the personality is just someone who doesn't challenge me.
Yeah,
on
but I think that's the
spiritual
key of
level.
like what are they defining as attractive? Because attractive could be the full encompassing of she has the personality and is good looking, hence she is attractive, or she just has the personality and a bit of the looks, hence she is attractive. So again, these vague statements, it's up to interpretation, so you really can't be like wrong on your interpretation of the actual statement itself, because there's so many ways you can take it. But in the taking it as attractive and just physical looks, yes, you can be friends with someone who is an attractive woman if her mentality is like dog shit and you don't like it.
Emotional level.
For yourself personally.
Someone who also is like emotionally unavailable, like, then it doesn't really matter.
I have friends who, like, you know, I would consider very attractive, but then at the same time, and when I think about it, I wouldn't be able to stand like being alone in a room with them for like more than like 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
I can acknowledge if like certain female friends of mine are attractive, but doesn't mean I'm like sexually attracted to them. And it comes to a point where like I see them as like sisters or just such close friends that even like the thought of them naked like grosses me out, because like I just don't see them that way. I see them as like very close, like almost like family in some cases and things of that sort. And you know, sometimes like you grow up with certain women and you see them as like a sister or you see them as a close friend, and you just grow up and you don't see her like that.
Fundamentally, what's natural and what is possible, I think, are two different things. Is it natural to not be attracted to a very attractive woman to you? I don't think so. But with a lot of intention with it, and your priorities are elsewhere, and you're very intentional with how you're showing up in that space, I think you can do it. And I think that was the question, if it can be done, not if it's natural or not.
True. Facts.
If I'm attracted to you, honestly, I'm
surprised the bisexual man did not step forward for that. Very interesting. I can't wait to hear his take. So far in the latter half of this thing, he's been
smash. You understand what I'm talking? We gotta have sex
at some points,
and we have to be in some type of sexual situation, or I don't really want to, you know, interact with you. On top of that, I don't believe in giving women non-sexual attention unless we're in a relationship. And the reason why is because I feel like non-sexual attention from a man towards a woman is very valuable. So I'm not just giving you that just to be friends. You know, so I'm saying, like, I'm not just going to do that for you. And so what it is that if I'm going to do that for you, you have to be under my program, which means that we're in some sort of sexual relationship between me and you. You see what I'm saying? So that's how I look at that.
I think that men and women can be friends. It's just not because the man wants to. Mm-hmm. Most often, it's the man is trying to sleep with the woman,
right?
And he's trying to hang around long enough for her to slip up and make that happen. I mean, exactly. Let's keep it 100, exactly. Right? So, can they? Yes, and that would have been the technicality. Like when I saw you moving, I'm like, but overall, most of the time, you're not going to see a man be friends with a very overweight woman. You're not going to see a man be friends with a very unattractive woman unless there's some kind of financial reward there. So, by and largely, I don't buy guy friends, particularly with any girl I'm seeing. It's like, yeah, right.
I think when I think about it, like, and I had a technicality on the other side, because I'm like, yeah, part of me really believes that can happen. But then I go back to my experience in life and my friends, and it's really hard. I was running over there in my head, like, should I sit down? But I was running all these scenarios from life experience of my friends who have said that, girls and guys, because it's not just guys, and it's never worked out that way. It just never is. And I think it's if you find a person can be an attractive person and you not find that person attractive and you be friends.
You have friendship and
attraction. That's my thing.
Yeah,
part of a relationship is friendship and getting along. And then on top of it, you find that person attractive.
You know what?
Yeah. I just think it's a very rare thing. Yeah, yes, a person can be attracted to me and you not find them attractive, and I can be friends with that person. But if I'm finding that, or if you're finding that person attractive and you build a friendship
and you
connect,
it's a trap.
Probably want to be
It's a trap. It's all over.
I don't think, like I said, it doesn't exist. But to me, just again,
it's hard
my experience in life and just knowing my friends and people, I don't know one that
something's gonna happen.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with like your own experiences. Obviously, if that's what you've seen or that's what you personally experienced, that like you yourself couldn't be in a friendship with a woman, like, again, that's your personal experience though. Whereas the question is like, can any man be in a regular friendship with a woman?
Like a real friendship, like they're actually really friends.
Yeah.
And he not want to sleep with her and find her attractive?
Right.
No.
I think it's BS.
Because like at that point, like we're also talking about like, now we're talking about like what is an attractive woman, right? Are we talking about just looks? Because in this case, like there are people who like honestly don't like have sexual like desires for a woman who isn't like emotionally linked.
I think is she attractive to you?
Yeah.
I think that's like the basis of it. When you look at specific situations, so for some of these females that work for you, for example, if they're very attractive, do you feel, I would imagine you have the capacity to compartmentalize that?
Gift from God. Yeah, man. The second I sign their check, it's gone.
It's gone, right? So I think it's the same thing with friends as significant others as well. It's like I have the ability to compartmentalize it where it's like, all right, This attraction just dissipates.
So is that the barrier that can make a man friends with an attractive woman? If there's that barrier of him being in a relationship, or you working for them?
Well, first of all, we're not friends. You work for me.
Right.
You know, I care about you fully. You're part of the family, but you work for me. We're not personal friends. And me and you will not be in an atmosphere we're alone.
Right. So when you go back to it, is it a thing where if you're both single, do we all think that you could be friends with an attractive woman? If we're both single.
Hell no.
Nope. I don't know.
No.
I don't.
No.
No.
A man should not
Exactly.
cry in front of his kids.
Exactly. Should not cry in front of his kids. No, a man can cry in front of his kids. Should they? Should not cry in front of their kids. This is a tough one, man. Yes, they should be able to cry in front of their kids, but not often, bro. Maybe like when bad, terrible things happen, yes, a man can cry. But often when bad, terrible things happen and you are in a family structure, the man needs to show up for the family to then unload their emotions. And then the man can subsequently cry after with his brethren or, you know, talking to his parents or, you know, father or whatever, mother or whatever. I think that system is a better system than a man crying in front of his kids. I think to cry to people on his like parents would be a better situation than to go home and cry in front of his kids, bro. Because what are your kids really gonna do for you? You can tell them it's okay to cry, but you don't necessarily need to cry yourself.
It ain't popular. It's not even popular to say this.
Yeah, no.
But ideally, you're not gonna cry in front of your kids.
Ideally,
they cry
yeah.
to you. Is it fair? No. Is life fair? No.
No. True.
Is the dynamic between a man, a woman, a child fair? No.
No.
But personally, for me, I want to take that responsibility of being the one that's stronger than all of them, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that responsibility. I want that responsibility in my life. I want to feel like I was a hero to them in every way, and I don't think a man that cries in front of his family is not the hero. But ideally, I'm not gonna be doing that.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, it's weird. I've never actually seen my dad cry till this day. Like, not even once. The kids is looking to their father for that strength. And so if they're seeing their dad cry, right, I feel like that creates fear in the situation the kid has with their father.
Exactly.
If you're crying in front of your kids, it's the same thing as crying in front of your girl. It's a bad representation of what you're supposed to be.
Because this is the thing. If your dad is crying in front of you as a child, you sense that shit is really going wrong. And as a kid, you might then fear for what situation you're actually in, because usually dad doesn't cry. So why is he crying now? What's happening? So you kind of get that sense of like, oh shit, what's going down? What has gone down to get dad to this position? So ideally, I would suggest, yeah, crying to your kids is not the one, bro. Yeah, it's not the one.
In that situation for them.
Now I'll tell you when I do cry. Bro, when you see like one of those kids with Down syndrome get put in a high school basketball game, he starts nailing threes and the gym goes crazy, bro, I'll be crying my ass off. I'm so happy for the kid. It's like happy, I'm like laughing, I'm like, you know, but other than that, man, no, not at all. Calm the heat.
Here come the heat.
Can
Ooh,
the person
shit.
who like has
Yeah,
kids?
shit about to go crazy.
I was gonna, but look, I have a father who I've never seen cry, so I get that. I was that man. Again, you have to understand my kids. My middle daughter, who I'm going to talk about, is 26 years old. Now, for some reason, out of all three of my children, that middle girl, from the time she turned 13 to 17, 18, we just butted heads, right? And the relationship wasn't going to where it should be going. And I want to be close to my kids. We sat down, she was about 20, maybe 19, 20 years old. We had a heart-to-heart about our feelings and how we really felt about each other, and I cried. And 7 years later, better relationship than we've ever had, because she saw a human part of me and not just me trying to be what you guys are talking about, which is a good thing too.
Yeah.
You can count, my wife can count
That's
on one
true.
hand how many
Yeah.
times she's
Again, that's a very good point, because it's different for different people. Because sometimes your kids feel like they do not connect with you on some emotional level. You do not care for them. So when you cry for them, especially in the context of you crying for them because you want the best for them, then they see that you care. So in that context, yes, but in the context of shit is going south, you shouldn't probably be crying
see me
in front
cry.
of your
My
kids.
son had my other daughter have it. But I'm going to tell you, for that enriching moment, and that's again just coming with years of having those tears with her,
that makes sense.
And talking about how important it was
in specific
that our
scenarios,
relationship work, and then hear her come back and saying she felt the same way, and breaking through that. I'm the father. I'm going to be the strong one. Made her break down, and both of us be closer than we ever have been.
Can I ask you a question about
That's
that?
true.
Do you think that if you could have set her down earlier than the age that you did and just had a vulnerable conversation, that maybe it could have happened? Like it wouldn't have had to build all the way up to tears?
No.
She wouldn't have been able to hear it, or?
No, because what was going on, from my understanding of our relationship, is that, young people, I'm very independent, my children are very independent. They don't want to be controlled in a certain way. And as a father, you still have to keep that control. She was only seeing that side. So she was only seeing this domineering person trying to squish what she thought that she wanted to be or who she wanted to be. And that wasn't it. I was just trying to play the father role. I saw my dad do it. Never a tear. He's that man, and I was raised by that man, and I took that on. I remember sitting my son down and telling him, boys don't cry. And I still to this day regret that. And I still talk to him. He's 24. I still talk to him about I was wrong, because I do not think that's the way we're supposed to live our lives. And I think that's why you go back to the statistic of how a lot of men are depressed. We're supposed to have emotions. We're human. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't believe every time you turn around, you should be in front of your children, ooh, and your wife, I think that's a drastic thing. But I know dropping a tear as a father for me made a relationship so much closer and so much better than it would. I'm telling you, I know than it would have ever been.
You don't think you could have shown that vulnerability without a tear?
No.
My dad was capable of expressing emotion, not from the standpoint of being a whiny little baby. He held it down on my family. My parents are the happiest couple ever seen, still to this day. But my dad was able to, and still is able to, at funerals, be able to show emotion. During movies, when he feels the emotion, be able to show up and do that. I'd never see him whining about, like what you guys are saying, whining about just issues happening in his life, like at work and what he's doing. Never. He deals with that on his own. But he is showing up vulnerably when he is experiencing an emotion, not from a whiny baby place, but from a freeness that he has with it. And I even think, like, when I first went off to college, he's tearing up too.
So I would just like to say, this is a field I specialize in. I'm a program manager for a nonprofit that focuses on mental health. And a lot of the times what we get in our clients are men that are coming in dealing with childhood trauma, these expectations and standards of trying to live up to the quote unquote masculine ideal. So a lot of the times we have men coming in because they're still trying to seek approval in their 30s, or they're still trying to get that male validation.
This is interesting because this is one of those things that will just keep, especially now there's competition, not just between men, but between men and women in the workplace. So now it's like doubly exacerbated. Hence you see these depression rates go up because, as we know, women are dating across and above. So the pool of men that they're eligible for them is kind of shrinking essentially as they climb up the socioeconomic ladder. So it's a tough situation for a lot of males to be in. They're kind of just almost getting left in the dust. Hence, they get a lot more depressed.
In their 40s. And it goes back to making sure we understand the difference between regulating your emotions and suppressing them. I think that's why I said earlier, like, to be an alpha, you have to be balanced. You guys can be emotional as well. You guys can be vulnerable. It doesn't make you less than. Just like a woman being more assertive doesn't make her less than a woman. If you feel like you don't want to promote being emotional in front of your kids, I've asked the question, does that kind of fall into toxic masculinity for your son?
Well, first, I didn't say anything about not being vulnerable. Vulnerable is the word that I brought up. So I think being vulnerable is very important. I think crying,
vulnerable and crying is two different things.
In front of your kids is not ideal. This is not about an ego stroke or trying to be overly masculine. I think being vulnerable as a man is one of the strongest things a man can actually do. It's just that I don't think that crying, particularly sobbing, is going to be very healthy as the leader and the person that they're supposed to come to for that safety and that care.
But isn't real vulnerability then you're just not being honest, be like, yo, babe, sorry, I had this thing. I left and I cried. But now I'm here to be strong with you. That's real vulnerability.
I can't think of a scenario where I'd leave to cry.
Yeah. But needing feels performative. I'm trying to show you how vulnerable I am.
No, it's not necessarily showing. It's
I think you can be very vulnerable without crying.
Yeah, you can be vulnerable without crying.
Express their sadness in different ways.
You can be, but I heard what you guys were saying earlier, and I agree with that. It's like, you don't want to be a crybaby about things. We don't, right? But it's like to be at, for instance, if I'm at a funeral and this person meant something to tell me.
Bro, you're not gonna be on the floor wailing, running around like a crazy person. You can shed tears, let the tears roll down your face. But you're not gonna be there like, "Oh," like, bro, like that's what they're saying. Like, you don't have to be that.
No, can't do that. Or I see something on
And sometimes, and oftentimes when you're in those situations, you might need to be the emotional rock for the other people, your family, your kids, if it was someone close to them. But if it was someone, obviously, you're going to a funeral by yourself, obviously, or with you and your wife, obviously, can be emotional and whatnot. If it was someone you knew and maybe they didn't know as much as well, that's perfectly fine. But to be sitting there like, bro, that's not helping anyone.
television or a movie that moves me, like, you
Yeah.
can't do that. It's like kind of like a very weird thing.
Yeah, you
And
can shed tears
I
if
think you
that
guys
comes
touched
upon you.
upon
I
that.
think, yeah,
There's
that's
just
perfectly
like a
fine.
weird stigma behind like crying because it seems like we keep associating.
Yeah, I think the stigma is behind the ugly crying. When a man is crying where he's not really like wailing or whatever, you just see tears roll down his face. That means something. When you're wailing and rolling around the floor, like, bro, that's extra. That's too much. Now
Crying
you're just attention seeking,
with
bro. That's
weakness.
too much.
And the issue is that like again, there is a big difference between crying and sobbing.
Exactly.
So hysterically sobbing, like I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's
That's what
what
we
we
don't.
do if you
Yeah.
like say you lost a loved one like really close to you, like not like say like your significant other, say like horrible accident, like stuff like that. Like there are obviously scenarios for that. For like regular crying, again, kind of like we all touched upon that. We're not saying that you have to cry every other day, but like there are like cases where it's okay, it should be okay.
As kids, we look up to our dads to be able to how do we react to certain scenarios. Do you feel that like, okay, like for instance, like my dad didn't cry. I don't think I've ever seen my dad cry. I've seen very bad like sad scenarios, straight face, and I feel like I developed that as like a kid. Like as I got older, like I have to keep this inside because that's exactly just how I saw my dad do it. How would you basically like explain to your kids how they feel like they should let out their sadness? Should they keep, especially if you feel like you're not really expressing sad emotions in front of them?
I think probably the best thing I can do is like explain to you what my goal as a father is to explain them the truth of the world. Truly, hey, this is the truth of the world. This is how the world is. Here's some competencies and things you can do to set yourself up, because my ultimate goal for my children is to have choice. So I can have a son, he could be gay, he could cry. He could be straight, he could cry. Like I could have daughters that were dominant masculine. I don't care as long as they have choice. I personally, my preference and what I aspire to be and what I want to be and what I get to be is that strong man for my family.
We all kind of believe that like we have to be a hero for our kids, right? Especially when they're super young. And honestly, I agree. I think it's totally like you need to be a role model for your kids, and you need to be a safe space, which I completely agree with. But things happen as they grow up, you know what I mean? Especially when they go towards their teen years, when they start being more in touch with their emotions, when they're actually like feeling a lot of different things and feeling the pressure of society and everything that's collapsing around them. Sometimes they don't just need like a hero, they need a father to like commune with, to like.
But that's what a hero does. A hero does communicate. They do understand what the need is, and that need is met.
Talk with.
Yes.
Ooh.
That way.
That was smooth, man. Let's see what else is there anymore. Jeez. No, that was good, man. That was good. I really enjoyed that one, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed with all the prompts. Which ones you agreed with me on, which you disagreed with me on. And yeah, let's keep moving, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All that good stuff, guys. Definitely follow Jubilee. They're doing amazing, amazing things. This is what we need in society, to have these conversations, to be able to sit down with each other and discuss conversations like this and how to, men express themselves and men's emotions and all this good stuff. We love to see conversations like this. This is the future. This is what we want to see. Not suppressing people and repressing people from talking or expressing how they feel inside. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, peace. And remember, don't fall for peer pressure. Do what you need to do, not what other people want you to do. Okay? Unless it's your parents and you're a child, then listen to your parents until you're old enough to make your own decisions. Okay? Peace.